He received the call in the dressing room after his shift. Arseny, I've left. His wife's voice rang out. Our daughter is with my mom. They're going to spend the night there. Pick her up tomorrow. Otherwise she'll start complaining again. All right. He put his phone in his pocket and, sighing heavily, headed home. Why does everyone have normal housewife wives, while my Dasha can't sit still at home? She's a representative for a major company in our region. She spends whole days either in the regional center or in nearby cities. Sometimes she's away from home for weeks. The most interesting part is that I earn a decent amount, but she earns even more, not to mention her company car, which is practically her own. He shook his head. A smile appeared on his face. The only problem is that my mother-in-law constantly berates her daughter, and I get blamed for spoiling my wife too much. But what can I do if my Dasha is naturally adventurous? Lately, she's been busy and preoccupied. She says there are big changes on the horizon. That's for the best. Maybe she'll find a job in the city. She might earn less, but at least she'll always be at home. Arseny arrived home. The huge 4-room apartment was empty. Dinner wasn't waiting for him. He made some tea, sliced a loaf of bread, spread butter on top and added cheese. He drank his tea and started thinking about what to cook for dinner. Cooking was something he had learned over the course of 13 years of married life, especially in the last 5 years since his wife got this job. His thoughts were interrupted by the melody of his phone. It was his friend, who is currently working as an investigator in the regional center. Hey, Boria. Hey, Arseny. I'm going to visit my parents in our hometown for the weekend, and I'll stop by your place. We need to talk. Of course. Of course. When will you come? Who's at home with you? Just me. My wife went to the region. The girls are at my mother-in-law's. All right. I'll be there in 2 hours. Get some snacks ready. Oh, Arseny, how old are your girls now? The older one is 12. The younger one is 9. How time flies. Anyway, see you soon. Just be ready. Arseny opened the freezer, took out a large piece of pork. So, I'll make pilaf. I have carrots and onions. Why did Boria decide to stop by my place first before going to his parents'? He mentioned something about a conversation. A nostalgic smile appeared on his face. We were best friends in childhood. Our paths diverged after the army. He went to join the police academy, while I fell in love with Dasha. Now he's a major working as an investigator in the regional center, and I'm a lathe worker in a factory. But you could say I'm the highest paid one. He rinsed the rice and started frying the fat. He began making a spicy salad with tomatoes, sweet peppers, and onions. It would be a perfect accompaniment to the rich pilaf. His friend arrived as promised. 2 hours later, he placed a bottle on the table. After finishing dinner, Arseny demanded, "Speak up. Just don't get offended, okay? This will stay between us." Boria, what are you talking about? Did we ever get offended at each other? Arseny, then listen and don't interrupt. Recently, we targeted a certain, let's say, group. They put up resistance, so our guys didn't hold back. Among the casualties was a guy named Yevgeny. His last name won't mean anything to you, as well as his first name. Let me briefly tell you his biography. Boris, I don't understand anything. Arseny, I asked you not to interrupt. So, about his biography. This Yevgeny had a wife, rather a girlfriend. They were not officially married, but they had a son together. Soon after that, his spouse found out who he really was and disappeared, leaving him with their little son. He had money and hired an elderly, unattractive but very professional nanny for the child. His friend fell silent, apparently preparing to get to the main point. He nodded at the glasses, while they snacked. He collected his thoughts and continued. About 3 years ago, Yevgeny fell in love again. Boris sighed heavily. It seems the love was mutual, but they didn't need a stamp in their passports. Besides, both of them were engaged in activities that kept them away from home. The nanny continued to raise their child, but Zahar, that's the boy's name, started to love Yevgeny's new wife and began calling her mom. Boris fell silent again, collecting his thoughts, and continued. After Yevgeny's death, the only person left for this boy was his stepmother, not counting the nanny, as she gets paid. The stepmother also loves the boy and is torn apart. Boria, I don't understand anything. What does this woman have to do with it? Arseny, it's your Dasha. You. What? I'm sorry, you're my friend, and I couldn't hide it from you. Boris, this just can't be. Let's call it a night, his friend suggested, and let's go to bed. You can think it all over thoroughly tonight and decide what to do in the morning. Don't get behind the wheel. Dasha entered the apartment. Mama! The boy rushed to her. My sweetheart! She hugged him and burst into tears. Why did it take you so long? I was waiting for you. I have a demanding job. He's been scared that you wouldn't come at all. The nanny approached them. Don't worry, my dear. I won't leave you. She hugged the child again. Can I go now? The nanny asked. Yes. Come on Monday at 7 in the morning. Dasha handed her money. How much do I owe you? 14,600. Here's 15,000. Asha spent the whole evening with the boy, teaching him how to read and cooking dinner together. As he fell asleep, she lay down on her bed, and heavy thoughts rushed into her head. What should I do? This can't go on forever. I have a family, a husband, daughters. But I had another husband whom I also loved, with whom I was together for 3 years, and I can't abandon little Zahar. After a year or two, he will ask, Mom, what does all this mean? And what about my daughters? They love me too. And Arseny? He loves me too. What have I done? And it's impossible to fix it now. She went to make tea. After all, she couldn't fall asleep anyway. There's a restructuring happening in our company. There are rumors that I will stay in the city where my husband and daughters are. I'll be managing a huge department store. There won't be any more business trips. What about Zahar? Send him to an orphanage? He's already 6 years old. He won't forget, and he'll never forgive me. Sipping her tea, she went to bed, but could only fall asleep towards morning. Dasha had a flexible work schedule, and her working day was not regulated, so she could check the shops entrusted to her with her son, whether on weekdays or weekends. That Saturday morning, they were getting ready to go to work with Zahar. He found it interesting too, and in the morning he started bombarding her with questions. Mom, are we going to drive to the shops? Yes. Will you buy me a transformer? Of course. By the way, it's time for you to get a smartphone too. You're already grown up. Mom, then I don't need a transformer. Let's buy a smartphone. As she chatted with her son about possible purchases, she walked out of the entrance and heard a familiar voice calling out to her. Dasha. Arseny? The handbag slipped from her hands. Mom. The boy looked scared, alternating between his frozen mother and this man. Well, let's introduce ourselves. Zahar. The man extended his hand. My name is Uncle Arseny. How do you know my name? The boy asked in surprise. It just so happens that I know. Where are you and Mom going? To work. To check the shops. Well, I'll go with you. Arseny. Dasha. Let's postpone the conversation for later. Her husband interrupted. I'll take the wheel. When everyone settled in, he asked, Where to? I don't know, the woman answered, lowering her head. I don't know anything. Then let's go to the park, Arseny suggested. There are various attractions there. Mom, let's go, the boy exclaimed joyfully. Looks like it's decided. Her husband replied for her, and the car smoothly pulled away. They bought tickets for different children's attractions. Zahar sat in a small car and started driving, bumping into other boys and girls. And Arseny, after gathering his thoughts, asked his wife, Don't you have anything to tell me? What can I say? It seems like you already know everything, she answered after a short pause. I've completely messed up. And what now? I don't know. Dasha, I have loved you all this time and believed in you. Arseny, I understand that you will never forgive me. There is simply no forgiveness.
Besides me, we also have our daughters who we can't explain all this to. We have your mother, who constantly nags at you and me, but who loves her granddaughters, loves you, and treats me well. Arseny, why are you doing this? Yell at me, hit me. Dasha, didn't you understand what I said? Besides me, there are our daughters, your parents, and this little boy. He nodded towards Zahar, who was happily driving the toy car. Try explaining it all to them. So, what should I do? Tears welled up in the woman's eyes. Mom, can I ride some more? The little boy ran up to them. Yes, go ahead. Just give the ticket to Auntie. Zahar ran off. The couple remained silent for a long time. In her heart, she hoped that he would be able to answer her final question, find some way out of this impossible situation, and he searched for that way out. Finally, coming to a decision, he said, let everything stay the same for now. In 10 years, when the girls grow up, we will get a divorce. You will explain everything to the girls and our parents as best as you can. Arseny, she looked at her husband, her eyes pleading. And what about Zahar? Her spouse thought again, but then a smile flickered across his face. How old is he? 6. Then we'll get a divorce in 12 years. We can't send the little boy to an orphanage, after all. Thank you, Arseny. That's it. I'm going home. Your mother complains that we don't even let her relax on weekends. And he walked away, and she lovingly watched him go. Thank you, Arseny. I will fix everything, and I will regain your love.